At Wings of Transformation Publishing, we are committed to helping our authors reach their goals and pursue their dreams of becoming published authors. We work closely with each author to ensure a successful publishing experience, and we are dedicated to helping them tell their stories in the most meaningful and impactful ways. We look forward to putting you on the path to writing your book. At Wings of Transformation Publishing, we are committed.
Oh, yes, I want freedom. Greetings, greetings, greetings. We're going to listen to some freedom first, and then we're going to have a conversation. So get ready for Us Speaks, Building a New Legacy with your host, Queen Mother, Dr. Chen. Have a purpose in this here life, so your life ain't full of strife. I live a purpose each and every day so we can live in Yahweh. I have a purpose and all you do, just make sure your life is true. We are going to take the music down just for a moment so that we can have an opportunity. Greetings, 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 Hotep, and welcome, Aquaba. We are opening up tonight with a very sacred intention. And we're going to start right about here. Whenever you come into this vibrational space where we get an opportunity to reason, share our skills, talents, and expertise, this provides us with an opportunity to always highlight the joy, highlight our blessings, highlight our ability to actually love in the midst of chaos. Some of us refer to these things in other languages. Many times persons will hear me, good evening, Sister Queen Jeanette. It's always a joy and a privilege to be here. The Crew podcast, I tell you, the Queens are amazing because we are able to speak truth to power, highlight a variety of our experiences, things that we have lived through, things that we have helped others survive and thrive beyond, and being able to bring all of these things into fruition. I like to start as I share at the beginning. Many times when we talk about the vibration of culture, healing, arts, technology, spirituality, for life, inspiration, freedom, and education, chats for life. We'll say that one more time. Culture, healing, arts, technology, and spirituality, for life, inspiration, freedom. Most of the time we say E for education, but we're going to shift that a bit to edification. And we're going to navigate exactly what that means when we speak of you need to edify all of the things that you're engaged in so that you are morally as well as intellectually, academically to some, highlighting the levels of instruction, how you're invoking knowledge, how you're sharing information, and always dealing with an area of improvement. That's what we're speaking to when we speak of the truth to power and how we would like to bring some of these things into fruition in our work, in our places of recreation, in our places of worship, in any environment that we're within. Encouraging persons that this is that season. This is a time where there's a lot of information being shared. There are a lot of transformations on the earth. And since I know that all of the other queens have already addressed some of the more political experiences that we have endured, and we will still thrive beyond, not just survive, We're going to actually thrive beyond these particular experiences. I will leave those topics, those themes, to my beloved sister queens. What I will do tonight, and one of our intentions, and I realized that there our guest that was intending to join us this evening is from the Universal Negro Improvement Association African Communities League, RC 2020. And we did have an invitation that was left open for one of our previous guests who serves as the president general of the UNIA ACL RC 2020. And I'm going to just put it in the context of maybe something transpired. Maybe there were so many elements in that workday that too much interfered with being able to join us tonight, and we look forward to being able to share a couple of things tonight. So I'm going to start with a series of quotations that have been percolating in social media over the last 4 to 7 days in the 48 contiguous United States, in the Caribbean, in Central and South America, and of course, our sisters in the North, Canada, as well as in other parts of the world. But I'm going to share those things that came in English first. And this may be familiar. We can disagree and still love each other unless your disagreement is rooted in my oppression and denial of my humanity and right to exist. And those are the illustrious words of the award winning literary scholar, published author, James Baldwin. And I share these because I'd like us to just keep that positive vibration, that positive energy, those types of energetics. Stop using your energy to worry. That should resonate with all of us. Use your energy to believe, create, love, grow, glow, manifest, and heal. And all I can say is that it is really important, instrumental beyond measure, for us to learn how to heal and to grow. It's amazing to me that sometimes when we speak of these things, I love when people tell me that they try to call me on the phone while I'm on the air, and I'm going to just apologize to my beloved viewers and listeners because the focus is on what we're speaking about. They'll come in a moment. I really wanted to also share this particular one. This should really sound very familiar. Nothing in the world is more dangerous than sincere ignorance and conscientious stupidity. And that is by none other than the Honorable Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. And I share these, and we're going to keep sharing these sound bites throughout tonight's broadcast because, as I have expressed before, I think it is amazing, really amazing, truly empowering that for some reason our folks may engage in the fact that this is a time, the fact that we get up in the morning and we get giving thanks for that. We should be giving thanks for that to the point that no matter what is happening out here in the human environs, to the best of our ability, we will keep rising. To the best of our understanding, we will keep rising. And we will always do our best, our utmost best, so that we can shift the vibration, shift our energies so that we move in a space of ascension, of elevation, of minimal stress and anxiety and tension, even in the midst of chaos. And I share these things because sometimes we just simply overlook little simple things like taking a deep breath and embrace our healing, embracing our strength, embracing our gifts, embracing our blessings, embracing the fact that we have an anointing that we are to honor, respect, and uphold the highest integrity, ethics, and moral fortitude. I know we got the little big words. It got to really, we can get a little bit wild sometimes when we start to talk in this form because we're saying this in the midst of things that are throwing many of our communities off. We also, I'm going to share another saying, and these are from different memes that are, uh-oh, I think somebody has some sound, and I believe that we are hearing, I believe our guest has joined us. So please bring him in. Thank you. What's up? What's up? I don't see you at all, though.
To
Greetings.
don't hear me?
I hear you.
Please, can you hear me now?
I can hear you, but I do not see you.
Okay. I moved to a different location
Oh, you're
and you'll be able to see.
okay, but you got something going on with the sound.
No, hold on. It should be fine. I just got to move to a different location.
So, to my beloved viewers and listeners, we are being joined momentarily by our invited guest, Baba Akili Nkrumah, who serves as the President General for the Universal Negro Improvement Association African Communities League, RC 2020. And I
Can you
think
see me now?
we can see you now, and everyone can see you and they can hear you as well. Thank you. And with that being said, Green, I think you probably may want to bring your camera. You're good. We're not gonna. Excellent. That way you can see a little bit better. Thank you, Bubba. And so let me go back to I was sharing some sayings, you know, to kind of
Hmm.
set the stage for part of our part of our conversation, I should say. And so I'm going to shift to some other more engaging commentary that will lend itself to some of the things that we can always share and talk about. And part of it always comes from, again, I'm going to use some of the words of persons like Bob Marley. Menach, right? We always talk about release yourself from mental slavery, right? And it's really important that we begin to stay in that space of releasing ourselves from mental slavery. And I prefer to say from mental enslavement because no woman
Hmm.
gives birth to a slave. A woman gives birth to a child that may become enslaved. And I share that through what has always been brought to our attention by sister queens like Eldris, Adjua, Claudette Young Hines, one of the region's well renowned strategists and strategic planners, more specifically. So I'm going to use a quotation from West Gill. And if you're not sure what West Gill is, I encourage persons that are within listening shot, viewing shot of any of this particular broadcast, WEST Gyul, Gyul. It is a powerful platform sharing a lot of information about the realities, life skills, holding up our high achievers, our cultural stewards, our historians, our educators, our scientists, our creatives, and much more right here in the cultural capital of the Virgin Islands of the United States, St. Croix. And I would like to just share this particular quote before we open up into conversation with PG Akili. And I quote, I don't care who's sitting where. I won't allow it to change my mindset, how I choose to serve my community, or how I choose to walk in my purpose. Let us continue to focus on what is in our control. We're only doomed if we decide mentally that we are. Unquote. From West Gill. I'm just putting it out there because I think it's really important with everything that has transpired that we I like not naming things that bring a air of negativity, despondence, and tremendous hurt to the spirit and the soul. So what we're doing when we speak of us speaks, building a new legacy, we also vibrate on things that we must realize that the ground, another quotation, and this one is anonymous. So I guess you can sort of tell who said this one. We must realize that the ground should be prepared first. If the seed is sown correctly, the plant will grow to its full potential. Prepare the soil, then plant. And that's where we are starting and really opening up our podcast vibration for tonight because our intention has been to speak around things that are very positive, that are uplifting, that bring energy regarding what is it that we are doing, what is happening, what are you doing in your community, how are you honoring all of the different observances for the month of November, right? Some persons are honoring, we know that this weekend is going to be a whole vibration in the 48 contiguous US around Veterans Day. And we want to take a moment of silence and reflection for all of the veterans, for just their service. And not just a thank
Amen.
you, but an authentic, including you, Baba, because we know, I have to remember I'm saying it to you as well. We're grateful because there's a number, that's a sacrifice. And looking at it through that lens, outside of how other people may perceive, we have a number of warriors. We've got spiritual warriors, we've got cultural warriors, we've got political warriors, we've got our psychological warriors, we've got our health care warriors, we've got our artistic warriors, we have revolutionary warriors, and we always encompass that when we speak of that. Other observances during the month of November, persons as quiet as it's kept. Even the White House, in its recent manifestations, honors November and designates it as National Native American Heritage Month. That's a whole other conversation of things that we can begin to bring forward, share, highlight. And I always encourage persons, go further, keep going deeper when we begin to look at what are the observations that are shared wherever you live and what can you do. So with that, we'll pause on that. I can come to my other infomercials later because you're here. I really would like to thank you, Baba, PG, and Kruma, for just making some time in the evening to share with us. We know that we're in different time zones because the world of worlds changes things. However, it's really an honor and a privilege for us to be able to be upright and being able to share things. I would like to ask you to give a overview, something concise for just our viewers and listeners that are not that familiar with what the UNIA ACL RC 2020 is, and what are some of the things you'd like to highlight and share, please. Give thanks.
Give thanks, Sante Sane. I appreciate having the opportunity to speak to the audience and begin to share a message. The Universal Negro Improvement Association African Communities League Rehabilitating Committee was established in order to rehabilitate not just the UNIAACL because we viewed the direction incorrect, but to rehabilitate the race because we also view that direction as one in which we needed a type of collaborative, cooperative, and leadership entity in order to move us forward. See, we don't have all the answers. What we have is a structure. Marcus Messiah Garvey and the men and women of that era built a structure for African people to follow. And then building that structure, they didn't build it so that it would not change. They built it so that it would adapt to conditions and challenges because that's how our ancestors worked. in their desire and commitment to establish a government on the continent of Africa that work for African people, we maintain that as a mission, but to also recognize that we need to do it differently because of the progress, for a lack of a better word, but the changes that have taken place on the continent of Africa. We also, as RC 2020, recognize the conditions of our people here in America and our people on the islands and extensions of us. Because reality is this government of the USA has damaged African people across the board in the Caribbean, in the West Indies, in Australia. The government has had far reach, so we want to have far reach. And we also recognize that part of the answer is the proper education of our children, but also part of the answer is the proper education and stimulation of the minds that can move forward today. So our mission is one, to rehabilitate, but two is to build and structure the government so that when we are able to implement that governmental structure on the continent of Africa, we can be functional. But it also is a way for us to begin to endelve within the minds of our African people that we can, we must, we will build a government that speaks on behalf of us, because we don't have one anywhere in the world that truly speaks on behalf of people of African descent. That was part of the desire and the methodology of the Honorable Marcus Messiah Garvey and the men and women, or the, may I correct myself, women and men that supported and built with him. Yes, we have a tendency not to recognize the strength, but if you wear the you have to know the strength. So it's always women and men, and also recognizing that leadership is within the African woman. You see, fear of leadership is fear of you. It's not a fear of men. It's a fear of African women. It's a fear of your rise. It's a fear of us. And the European has used our maleness as a tool against us. And part of RC 2020's function is to salute African women. One of the first phrases that we ever printed was African women lead. Even though I am president general, I truly recognize that African women lead. So I listen, I learn, and then I try to also move the agenda forward, because it's important that not only we speak to the world now, but we prepare to speak to our youth coming up. You see, youth are the engine. They are the engine. They are where the energy will come from to change the world. If you look around the world, you will see that our youth have a lot of challenges and a lot of problems. Personally, it's because they don't have a cultural foundation. They have a foundation either of USA, Britain, and some other alien aspect. And even when they are from our islands and with our ancestors like St. Croix or Jamaica, the governmental structure is built on a European aspect, and it treats people in a European way. We have to change that. Part of the mission is to build the entity that not only speaks to our youth, but speaks to other governmental entities so that they recognize the role we play in determining the direction of our people. We scream about crime in our community, but crime in our community is fostered by the governments that move us. As we change the governmental structure, we can change what happens in our neighborhoods. We can change what happens in our communities. We can build back the respect and the honor that goes to its African queens, elders, and young. And then we can build a stronger African nation. So the UNIA ACLRC 2020's mission is to be that catalyst and to be that government so that at the proper time and in the proper place, everyone will know we are there. There may be others, but it's not building the government. It's not about building the economics to make the government stronger and richer. It's about building economics to make our people better and stronger and safer. It's about building a political system that secures the future of our children, of our people. And that's important because we have a tendency to get lost in the rhetoric of the world today. RC 2020 is not lost.
I'm grateful for you being able to give that to our viewers and our listeners very, very concisely, and with that caveat that it's about working with, it's intergenerational, it's
Yes.
across gender, it's inclusive of a wide variety of realities that have happened within our communities. And it's very important that persons are comfortable the same way that we speak of ourselves as those that move with an anointing, with blessings, with harmony, with unity, that we embrace our relationships amongst ourselves as persons of African ancestry unapologetically, because those are the things that will help
Yes.
keep a grounding of what we have experienced, what we have learned, what we have done together. So when persons speak of truth,
It will,
about,
and it will also. No, go please. No, please. I apologize.
no,
Go.
I was just speaking of my aunt. So I was just explicating because I use this term my
No,
aunt.
but I want you to say those seven values. I want you to say those seven values. I think it's extremely important.
Yes, truth, justice, order, reciprocity, balance, divine righteousness, and harmony. And it takes those seven qualities, those seven principles, to then speak to a four-letter word, a nice four-letter word, I should add, ma'at. And so when persons are
Yes.
saying things are ma'atical, or that we're looking for a ma'atocratic form of governance and engagement, that's when we're speaking of truth, justice, order, reciprocity, balance, divine righteousness, and harmony. And these are principles that are grounded and literally carved, etched in stone for what many refer to as an eternity, not only in what is known now as the United Arab Republic, Egypt, accurately known as Kemet, but all following across the Hapi Nile River, all the way to the beginning of the Mountains of the Moons, where the deity, the divine principle of Hapi dwells. So when people say Kemet, just remember they're speaking of where you have pyramids, the pyramids that you're more familiar with. And then we're speaking of,
Yeah.
that's why we don't use the term Egypt, because how that has been misrepresented and misused, right? Because we're speaking of our ancestors even before that, in Nubia,
Yes.
in Kush,
Yes.
right? And just so that people are
Yes.
comfortable that we're speaking of ancestral times where there was more harmony amongst humanity, right?
And we speak of that in order to establish amongst us the type of unity that existed historically, because we as a people have been so disunified, so lied to, so abused, that it's a challenge. And most of the time, we don't recognize the that we face because we look at the European, the white man as the reason. He may be the reason, but we also have to recognize the condition and therefore how we respond to the condition, which is why, again, RC 2020, the Rehabilitating Committee, is about rehabilitating the race, because we need to make sure the race, our people understand that you didn't get here overnight. You got here over time, and over time through deaths and births, deaths and births, messages changed and were missed. And so, as we begin to reinstitute those messages, which is why I wanted you to say the seven Ma'at principles, and I want everyone to understand that seven is not the only principles, they are the beginning, they are the standard bearers. So, if you can grapple with them and practice them, then the rest becomes easy. One of our historical principles was that we should cause no one to be sad or to cry. I want or to be insulted. I want us to think about that. How challenging that you don't insult somebody. Okay, for the record, I insult people,
One second, Baba, because you're
but
going
I
in.
don't insult them in a
One second,
negativity.
one second, Baba, because something's going on with your internet sound. So we're losing some of what you're saying. So just take a moment and see if it will let it
Okay,
buffer. Yeah, just let it buffer.
come back.
Yes, there you go. We're hearing you now. Go ahead.
All right, because we have to recognize an insult. And as I was saying, I have insulted people, not as a means of being negative, but as a means of trying to give a lesson. What I realized is that I need to make the lesson easier to digest and therefore make it easier for you to operate. We have value system, and I say we, RC 2020, and the men and women that support the consciousness and movement of Africa have a commitment to developing the
Okay, it completely went off. So, viewers and listeners, we're going to wait until he can get back online. And in the meantime, it'll give me an opportunity to just kind of share some of the context of some of the work of the UNIA ACL RC 2020, which has, many persons may be familiar with the work of the Honorable Marcus Messiah Garvey, know about the publications that were made possible by his beloved surviving wife, uh, Amy
Amy
Jackson,
Jacobs Scarvey.
right? And then there's a lot, people speak of the philosophy and opinions. You're back. Got it. There we go. I was just doing an infomercial while we waited for you. So
Okay. I didn't know I was gone, but see, the reality, part of this is how we as RC 2020 have to move forward. And I appreciate Queen Mother, Dr. Tanzira, second assistant president general, and building a format by which we're able to talk and give out information. So that if there are questions and if there is issues or challenges or comments, please feel free to make them. I'm not here to be a talking head. I'm here to be a person that not only listens, but then takes what you say and try to implement it. We are moving steadfastly forward to speak to not only the previous tragedy that took place in America, but also the tragedies that take place in England and other European countries, because we recognize that those tragedies impact people of African descent across the board.
right, right. And I think it's
Across the
important,
board.
right? It's very important because we have some persons aren't familiar that yes, the UNIA formed in 1914, and and then persons get a little bit over the top and recognize yes, this happened in Jamaica. Let's go fast forward connections here in the 48 contiguous. A couple of years later,
1917.
thank you, 1917,
Yep.
which is a very interesting year because that was a year of, there was World War going on. Lynching was the call of the day
Yep.
in the 48 contiguous and other parts of the world. That was also the time I like to bring it close to where I sit. 1917 is the year that the purchase, transfer, and sale of what is now known as the Virgin Islands of the United States, that was formerly known as the Danish West Indies, where the
Hmm.
Kingdom of Denmark sold to the United States of America these three, primarily three islands: St. Croix, St. Thomas, St. John. And originally they didn't even want St. Croix just because of our distance from St. Thomas and St. John. However, the most expensive real estate per acre that the United States of America has ever purchased since the 1776 formation are these islands that are now known as the Virgin Islands of the United States. And it wasn't paid for with money or fiat dollars. It was paid for in
Right.
$25 million dollars in gold. I like to highlight that for a second. Let's pause on that. $25 million dollars in gold in 1917. And then we always ask that question. If you're in the middle of a world war, you have all this chaos going on in your country, which pot you get the gold from? Where it come from?
Well,
Huh?
see, recognize that in 1917, if I may interject,
Please
the
do.
dollar was the dollar was based and supported by gold, which is why the American economy at that point grew strong. You see, because it had a base, so that if I wanted the island and I agreed to pay you $25 million, it was $25 million in gold, which has had a greater value than $25 million. So you got less gold, but you got less gold based on the number. And what the America did in order to change the economic status, which is what we deal with now, is they took the gold off of the dollar. So the dollar has no supporting entity at all.
Mm-hmm,
It's just a piece of paper.
mm-hmm,
that we use for an exchangement of services, goods, and services. But again, I don't want to digress and change the direction of the program. That's not the mission. Um, but trying to understand the direction is important because we have to secure a governmental structure that can meet with, talk to, interface with other governmental structures throughout the world.
I think that it's also important. I just need to, it's not even a digression. I just like people to be really clear when we speak from the spaces where we speak from, that we can look at certain sites that help to navigate like a basic inflation calculator, right?
Hmm.
$25 million in gold from 1917 is about 615 trillion now. I just want
Yes,
people I just want people to get the flavor, and
got you.
some people will put it just at, oh, it's only a little less than 700 million. But we're talking about gold. If it was just dollars, then
Right,
yeah.
because then the dollar would have no value because
Right,
it's not supported by anything. It's
right,
just paper. But
right,
the reason your numbers are accurate is because the value of gold is what's accurate.
right.
America was intelligent in its way to take the dollar off of being supported by gold because then anyone that had debt with America could request it to be paid in gold.
Correct. Correct. Which is what Denmark, and this is the same Denmark that in 2024 is, one of the cleanest, one of the wealthiest, high-ranking nations on earth. So now that we've had that conversation, we're gonna move it in a other direction for a moment, because part of what you were starting to explicate and share with our viewers and listeners were points about the UNIA ACLRC 2020, the importance of the African Women Lead initiative that has really become a movement and a self-propelling grounding for work that we do. The fact that we speak of, we speak of the principle of Ma'at through the actions, the work, the deeds that we're engaged in, so that we are able to maintain some layer, okay, of engaging righteousness when we're moving things forward. And then we also are speaking around, what are some of the observances that we have. For example, we know that some persons during this time of the year, we had a wonderful Gitchi Gumbe, and I think people should just
Mhm.
get an idea of knowing that within the UNIA, there's several annual initiatives, events, programs. So whether it's things, in January, highlighting the upliftment of how persons deal with their resolutions, and we begin to plan and prepare for our activities in different communities. We have UNIA divisions that spread throughout the African continent. We have representation in Europe. We have representation in Canada. We have representation in the 48 contiguous, representation in Central and South America, and the Caribbean, literally around the world, and that this is a representation of what the Honorable Marcus Messiah Garvey put in place in the early 20th century. And we have just been keeping that vibration moving. True, we may not have the 6+ million dues paying members that he had in 1920. However, we're moving in that direction because so many persons are still following the principles, the strategies, the ideological framing of Garveyism and the work of the Honorable Marcus Messiah Garvey and all of what the UNIA has brought forward in 2024. So there's been a lot of reunification, a lot of, I won't say compromise, but I'll say that we're working in a very forward acting vibration to be able to restore that, because that's what is our charge. That's part of our destiny. When we're speaking of one God, one aim, one destiny, we're speaking of that in a practical form. How do we help people with housing? How do we help people dealing with issues surrounding incarceration that's illegal? How do we handle education? How do we deal with agriculture and construction? And how do we deal with artistic engagements? How do we shift some of this criminality that's connected to mental health imbalance and chaos and poverty and all of these things? And so we keep bringing these types of initiatives and programs again from January, dealing with our preparations for our various conventions that are every August. And again, anyone within earshot listening, if you're not sure where a UNIA convention is being hosted in August, link with the UNIA ACLRC 2020. You are welcome to attend and embrace and engage because this is something that happens every year. I think it's really important to know that there are, February in the 48 contiguous is African Black History Month,
History Month.
right? So
Yeah.
there's a lot of activities that are done then. And then comparatively, I'm jumping over the year. In October, our sisters and brothers in the UK, they honor African History and Heritage Month. And so they do a plethora of, so again, we're not limited to just, because we know that African Black history is 365 days, 24/7, because our history, we can celebrate every day. We have something that
Yeah.
happened that we did every single day, and we can multiple times, right?
Because as you
Right, go ahead, Baba.
And as you brought up the entities, as you brought up the entities that you did, one of the things that came to mind is how we celebrate not the solstice as one, but also celebrate how we come together as a people throughout different points of the year. Because you see, we have to recognize the cultural aspects of our interaction and our joinings. So we do a winter solstice, we do Kwanzaa, we do Gisigumbe, which is directed toward our children. We do that. We do a celebration of the solstice, and we want to make sure people understand how we are connected to the cosmos. And you may say, well, how does that move you to a government? I'm going to ask the question for you, and then I'm going to answer it. Here's how it does that. Once you have to be stable, and when you are stable, that means your mind is free to recognize and interpret and integrate ideas that will move a people. We are building a governmental structure to be respected throughout the world. All of your ideas and your inputs are valuable. You say, I'm not a dues paying member. Are you black? Are you of African descent? You could be black, African, and mixed. Are you of African descent? We do not judge you. What we do is embrace you. And then we take to the table the concepts that you bring. We recognize in this world that as a government without a land base, we have to be a government of activity, action, and implementation. And we do that. I bring that because I want everyone to understand that Universal Negro Improvement Association, African Communities League, Rehabilitating Committee, I, as a student of Thomas W. Harvey, who was a student of the Honorable Marcus Messiah Garvey, so my lessons are not secondhand, but firsthand. I didn't learn from Garvey, but I learned from the man that he taught. I also learned from the woman, because a lot of people don't talk about the sisters that was a part of Garvey's class. Sister Isaac was a part of Garvey's class. She was a graduating student. The Honorable President General Sherrill uh, excommunicated her from the UNIA because she chose to support the Garvey family above the direction. That's part of the history. But here's the part of history that connects to that. That sister took it upon herself to commit to continuing to support the Garvey family. She became a part of the UNIA-ACL Rehabilitating Committee, technically of 1948, led by Thomas W. Harvey. See, we're not the first. We're technically not the second, because the Honorable Marcus Messiah Garvey reestablished the UNIA in 1929 of the world. That's just history. See, I don't want y'all to think that this is a personality issue. It is not. It is a philosophical and a political issue as to how we move forward in building that government that speaks to the world. It is crucial. And, and for those of you who follow the elections, At this point in time, every nation that's had an election has elected a person that doesn't see you as a human. They see you as something else
And that
everywhere.
and that's why it's important that we work on our harmony. And as I started, and I'll keep coming back to some of that, it's really important that we focus on what we're going to do and how
Yep.
we see ourselves and the strength that we bring to the table and the honor that we would like to bring. I'm going to share with what you just said. I'm going to share another quote that I've have been kind enough to. I always like using anonymous because then we don't have to say who's really said it, right? The people the people who control and own the world don't care which ruler you choose. They only
Right.
care that you keep choosing to be ruled. I'm going to say that one more time because I want to make sure that everyone
Correct.
hears this one, right? The people who control and own the world don't care which ruler you choose. They only care that you keep choosing to be ruled. So we don't need to keep choosing to be ruled. We come here with, and I use the term anointed and anointing intentionally because I'm speaking to my sisters, my brothers, my sister queens, my brother kings, my sister princesses, my brother princes, those royal energies inside of us to recognize that this is a time, this is a very propitious time, this is a really significant time in the era
Yes.
of humanity for us to make sure that
Yeah.
we go into that realm of recognizing and embracing our anointing and honor those that we see and know are anointed. And we honor and welcome
Yes.
those that bring
Yes.
illumination and light. I want to just keep, I just want to, and I also wanted, someone is asking a question in one of the uh, side chats regarding what is Gitchi Gumbe, right? So I just wanted to highlight that this year, I'm going to let you speak to the detail, but I just want to share this year, it was the third, because I know I had an issue with it because I never grew up celebrating these things in October. So this year, 2024, was the 33rd annual Gitchi Gumbe
Yes.
celebration facilitated and hosted by the UNIA ACL. But I want to specifically give a special shout out to our Harambe Division 369 and our Woodson Banneker Jackson Bay Division 330. So the international divisions, the divisions in the that connect with brothers and sisters literally all over the earth, as well as those that are based in the DC, Maryland area. But I want to highlight what is on the flyer: no goblins, no witches, no burning at the stake, just African children
So,
portraying African
right.
sheroes and heroes. And I just would like to just for the common person that's not familiar with Gitchi Gumbe, and I really wish, and I'm looking forward to having our Secretary General, the Honorable Queen Mother
Mary
Mary
Bolton.
Walter, to share in a future broadcast to really give some context because this is something that's done so that our
So,
children, especially our children living in African culturally centered households, do not feel as if they're missing
so
from Halloween at all. Okay, go ahead, Bob.
and no, no, just to add a little history, and because my battery is not gonna last much longer.
Oh,
Um, Gitche Gumbe was established by Brother Now Bolter, who's Sister Mary Bolter's husband of the time. He recognized that Halloween was a negative celebration, and he said, "Let us celebrate who we are." And so African children got the opportunity to portray African historical figures. Sing, didn't matter who, what, as long as it was of African descent, and it became a teaching method as to how to be, who to be, and what you were. Because you see, if we stop for a minute and think about our oppression, then we have to recognize how we have not only survive but move forward. And I'm gonna bring an example that was brought out today. Frederick Douglass spent 20 years as a slave, but then became one of the most prolific writers and influential people of African descent in history. He did that by recognizing, improving, and showing that people of African descent were intelligent and intellectually capable of not only dealing with the European, but mastering the destiny of a people. And so I salute him so that in Gitchigumbe, you get a student to do a study of Frederick Douglass and then portray him. And then that student is enriched by that portrayal. You get a student who may want to do Amy Jacks Garvey. She's enriched by that. It could be any one of millions of people of African descent. Singers count too, because every singer just didn't sing. Some singers had a message. Um, my mother's favorite song was Strange Fruit on the
Mm,
Litmus Tree by
mm,
Billie Holiday.
that's right. Mm,
As a youngster in the single digits, I just liked the rhythm. As a youngster, as a teenager, I began to understand what the strange fruit on the litmus tree was. It was my ancestors. They were hung. I understood why the European feared her so for singing that song because they feared our reaction, our potential rebellion. So the UNIA ACRC 2020 is mapping out a political strategy that will probably take us on a higher level, but prepare us for any activity that takes place that we have to respond to. Dr. Chinziro, Queen Mother, Dr. Chinziro, I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to speak to your audience. I thank you for saying where the heck you are, making sure I got back on and I got on. I appreciate you.
thank you. We look forward. We'll have you come again in the near future, but we appreciate it because we're about to close out anyway. And we want to thank you again, Baba PG Akili Nkrumah, who serves as the President General of the UNIA ACL 2020, for just giving us a thread, a slice. And we're looking forward to you joining us again to give like
Yes, ma'am.
part
And
seven.
I gotta try to get this on my computer because doing this on the phone is a challenge.
Of course, no worries. But we look forward, Baba. We'll speak again soon, and we're going
We
to
will.
forward. All right, then, Hotep, Hotep.
Coach that.
So, viewers and listeners, we're really grateful for you being able to stay with us for this broadcast here. You know, we are really excited to vibrate and highlight some of the efforts, the word sound power that has been shared tonight. You know, you are definitely part of our network when we speak of OST Speaks, building a new legacy, and highlighting the work here with the Crew Podcast. This is also an opportunity for us to encourage persons that are listening, viewing. There are some sisters out there that would like to join this vibrant, engaging, informative, scholarly, prolific, spiritual, sacred, sanctified, anointed family. Just link with Sister Queen Angela and the visionary, and that way you will be able to, if you choose to join us, come engage and voice, bring your knowledge, bring your skills, talents, and expertise. This, you are joining a collective of powerful, engaging, wonderful, and sanctified, not just sanctified. I want to make sure I say that. Sa. When I say unctified, I'm saying with life force and illumination and energy and thriving, not just surviving, but bringing that energy up and really fulfilling our purpose, our destiny in the way that the Creator, the Almighty, by all the names we use, gives us the opportunity and the joy and the privilege to exist, even in the midst of some very challenging times. So, as I get ready to close, I also share, as I have been saying, couple of words. Anything we experience in the next 4, 8, 12, 16 years has nothing to do with who's in office, but everything to do with our mindset, the energy we choose to attract, the discipline that we have, the thoughts that we have, the power we have or give up, the power we take back, the agreements we make with ourselves and others, the respect, the trust, the integrity, the ethics that we bring to the banquet table, and also what any of us allow as energy in our personal, family, community, and social spaces. I needed us to really reflect on our own mindset and bringing that sacred, sanctified, blessed, illuminating light, shift the other energy elsewhere. Let it dissipate. Go back in the sea, far into the abyss. All right, I think you've got my point. I just need to make sure that I highlight those particular things and encourage persons to remember that culture heals humanity, land is our foundation, and spiritual harmony unifies us. When we speak of truth, justice, order, reciprocity, balance, divine righteousness, and harmony, we're speaking in a form that is practiced. We're speaking in a form that is lived. We're speaking in the way that we worship, that we recreate, that we learn, that we edify to the best of our ability. And with that, I just say, I give thanks, I give thanks, I give thanks. And remember, the first and third Thursdays, 8 p.m. Eastern Daylight Saving Time. Now, you get an opportunity to join Oz Speaks, Building a New Legacy. Share your voice. If you have any ideas and comments, email me at ostspeaks, ASTSPEAKS, at gmail.com, or look for Chensira Kahina in any of the primary social media spaces: Instagram, YouTube, Stumble Upon, Facebook, X, and that way we can begin to keep these types of conversations going so that we can heal, ascend, and elevate with love and all of the blessings afforded us. Remember, our mindset, our balance, remain in Ma'at. Good night, Hotep. Freedom, we need freedom. Oh, yes, I want freedom. I want freedom. Have a purpose in all you do. Just make sure that your purpose is true. Have a purpose in this here life, so your life ain't full astray. I live a purpose each and every day, so we can live in Yahweh. I have a purpose in all you do. Just make sure your life is true. Every time we walk on the streets, we see all the children crying.